Hi, and welcome to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation focused on youth mental health. Before we begin today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that all content that is found in our podcast is created for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, treatment, or therapy. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition, and never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard in this podcast. Thank you so much, and without further ado, let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving. This is your host, Punam here. If you remember, we started a new series, Career Choice, the Intelligent Way. Today, you are going to listen to the second podcast recording of this series. If you did not get a chance to listen to the first one, I highly recommend checking it out because in this series, we are going to discuss many tools and conversation that matters most to parents raising kids in a world that is changing faster than ever. And today's topic is future proofing your career, navigating trends, and embracing change. And while that may sound like something for the working world, it's exactly the kind of topic parents need to understand when guiding their children, educational and career journeys. Our guest, Dr. Sweta Adatia, a neurologist and the author of the incredible book, Future Ready Now, Neuroscience Based Career and Life Design. Her work blends cutting edge brain science with practical guidance to help families prepare for the future with clarity, confidence, and calm. Dr. Shweta, welcome. I know so many parents listening are going to benefit from your unique lens on education and work.
Thank you again. Thank you, Punam, for bringing me here. And thank you to all of you who have been listening. I love technology. This is the way where we can reach each other miles apart. So I live in Dubai and you can be anywhere. So greetings to you across the globe.
Thank you, Dr. Shweta. So let's be thinking about future career trends right now, even when their kids are still in school.
Beautiful question. Let's go back a little bit to our own careers. You are now a software engineer. Would you have even dreamt of doing that in your school days?
Not at all, doctor. So I was very good at singing, dancing. I was always on the stage. I did not even know computer engineering or, that time growing up, I did not even see computer. And it was an accident in my, after my undergrad. I did not know what to do. One of my very good friend's brother was a hardware engineer and he recommended, hey, computers are becoming hard part of life. Why don't you check it out? That's how I went into this field. Otherwise, growing up, I did not know what to do.
Exactly, right? So most of the times the way we pick up our careers is either peers, somebody come and tell us that, hey, why don't you try this? Or what we look into our parents. So for example, if I'm a 13-year-old and having two medical parents in the family, obviously I see medicine as the only way to survive, medicine as the way to be. And then if I have a best friend, I may be interested in medicine, but if my best friend is going into fashion, because I want to be with the friend. It's nothing to do with the fashion. Because I want to be closely tied up with that friend, I would choose fashion. So the way we choose our career paths early on in life is completely non-scientific. Unfortunately, it is only based on what is being talked about, what does the teacher, whatever the teacher teaches the best subject, and whichever teacher we like the most is what a kid would be more inclined to do. Now, if you interview a lot of kids right from 8 years to 12 years, and this we have done it over and over and over and over again, you'll be surprised to know that there are only 3 or 4 professions which attract them. Even in today's time, when you have chat GPT and you have all the fancy AI stuff which is there, either they talk about being a teacher, because that is what they see back and forth, all the time. The second is pilot. Somehow this aerospace and that just attracts them. Astronaut, most of them will say, I want to go into the space and work as an astronaut. Medical doctors, because they may be sick and they go to their doctors, and that is how they get influenced. And then we forget all the 800 odd or 900 odd careers, the options that we have, because of the way in which the brain operates. Now, there's a very nice, beautiful red car theory in neuroscience. For example, I want to buy a red car. The day I decide to buy a red car in the Dubai roads, let's say I'm going onto the highway, Sheikh Zayed Road, every other car I will see it as a red. Now, those red cars were already there, but it was not in my conscious attention. It was when it came into my intention, it came into my conscious action. That is how now I'm seeing red cars all over. Exactly the same way. There are so many careers, so many pathways, but the child would not be able to see that, neither the parent, because it's of that continuous one or two things which they are seeing. Now, I think this is what we have to change. The very first thing is educating yourself as a parent, as a kid, to understand. And so we call it in the My Limitless Brain framework. So the entire framework is a beautiful framework by which the parents sign up. They get to understand the brain of the child. They get to understand their brain. They get to understand the dynamics, and they get to understand the tool called the career consciousness expansion. So how many careers are there across, and then you start to relate what are the interests, what are the brain's preferences. But if I'm not aware, I'm not even sure what it is entailing, how will I even make it as a choice? Now, a lot of cryptocurrencies and the digital frameworks and a lot of fundamental changes are happening at the technology level, but the child has zero knowledge about all those things, right? The exposure is very limited, and hence you see doctors parents, the doctors children going into medicine, the CA parents having the child doing CA, etc., and all. But I feel that when they are young, 12 years old, 13-year-old, when they get exposed to so many subjects, I love the new curriculums. I love the American curriculum, the British curriculum, the IGCSEs, the IBs, because they allow them to get exposed to multiple subjects, which is the very first thing where you are opening up that little window to that consciousness, where you say, oh, there's also something called design, there's something called design technology. Oh, there's also something called fine arts. There's something called physical education. So when they start to understand those subjects, they start to get exposed to them in real life. So it is our job as parents, as teachers, as coaches, to make them understand in a fun way, in a very loving way, all the careers which are available across the world. At least that red car theory we have to eliminate. Then comes the next thing is, sit with them, have a dialogue. It is very important and prudent for the parents to spend some time. You should never be in that race of the demand supply and then the job and everything, because we do not live in industry 1 and 2 and 3 where everything was linear. Everything had a beginning and an end. Everything was predictable. Everything was predicted. In today's time, we do not live in these linear world. So even if I take an X career, I suddenly may land up doing a Y job, and I may have an increment or a money which comes from a Z effort, which is not interlinked and related at all. So when I have so many opportunities, why should I be feeling less abundant or less educated or suffer that, oh, it's time to now, choose all the careers? Because if you look at it scientifically, it's a very, very simple and a mathematical formula. So in the book, we have given a pyramid. There are 7 layers to this pyramid. In fact, the book's chapters also go into exactly those 7 layers. The very first base, which we spoke about in episode 1, is self-discovery. The second one is expansion of this career consciousness. Then the third one is flow and grow, building the strengths and the weaknesses we talked about. Then the fourth one is career focus. Now I know what are my strengths and abilities. Let's focus. The fifth step is mirror neurons. What do I need to learn from these inspirational figures? The success signatures. What skills can I build for that success and happiness? And then comes the final success and happiness. So each of the layer or each of that step in the pyramid is fundamentally designed in a neuroscientific way.
Thank you, doctor, for educating us. So I was having one question in my head. How does neuroscience help us understand how to navigate these changes?
So brain, let us understand brain from a little bit of a fundamental this to it. Although every single brain is unique, but there are certain fundamental features which are the same for all of us. So when I look at a brain, and the beauty of the brain is I can remove the brain, I can dissect the brain. We have known so much about the brain, and still it's just a couple of percentage into the vastness of what this complex organ entails. So I have a left side of the brain and then a right side of the brain. Now, many years back, there was a scientist named Dr. Sperry. Now, he was trying to treat people with epilepsy. Epilepsy is nothing but fits or seizures. And since both the brains are connected with a thick band of fiber in between, it's called corpus callosum. Now, he had a thought in his mind that the epilepsy is happening because the electrical impulses are crossing the brain from one part to the other. Why don't we cut the corpus callosum? If I now separate the two brains, it will be stopping the electrical impulses. Now, this is way before when we had all the functional PET scans and SPECT scans and all the functional MRIs. Currently, today, we know brain from a very different and distinct perspective because of all these scans. But then this is way back in 1980s. But this is a very fundamental and pivotal eye-opening trial which happened from Dr. Sperry. So he invited these patients, 5 patients, 6 patients were chosen into the cohort. He thought of doing this surgery called corpus callosotomy, separate the two brains out. Now, I'm a physician, but my surgeon friends love to cut, right? So the moment they said, 2 surgeons came up forward and said, yes, we will do the corpus callosotomy, bring in the patients were brought forwards, and corpus callosotomy was done. Now, until the surgery, everything well. The 40 to 50 attacks in a single day came down to 30 to 20, 10 to 5, under 5. And by the fifth day, the world even said we have to give Nobel Prize to Dr. Sperry because it's a marvelous discovery. You cannot have the best discovery as this. And sixth day, the patients all go home. Now, you and me came for this podcast or for this episode. We went to our closet. We quickly took our jacket. You went there. The right hand picked it up. The left hand quietly obeyed that, right? And we did not have a problem taking a tea or a coffee. My right hand, if I'm a right-handed person, I just brew my coffee. I took a cup of coffee, no issues. But for these patients, simple tasks became complex. And why was that? Now I go to the wardrobe, my right hand picks up a blue dress, let's say, but my left hand throws it up and says, no, pink. I want to wear pink. My right hand again throws the pink one and says blue. There was something called intermanual conflict, which means the two hands are fighting. Well, essentially, it is not the hands which are fighting. Why? Because now the two brains are not talking to each other. They are separated out. So my right brain puts its foot forward and wants everything its way. And then my left brain also says, no, everything will happen my way. So that is how this entire concept of this whole brain thinking came up. Then obviously a lot of psychologists got interested in this. Dr. Sperry spent 2 decades studying every single preference which is coming from the right brain, every single preference coming from the left brain. And it's not just left and right. There is also the upper brain and then a deeper brain, also called the lower brain or the limbic brain. So when the brain is growing, we have 2 inner sides and then the 2 outer sides, which takes the shape. Now, Dr. Sperry, when he worked with these 5 patients over and over, again with multiple repeated experiments, the psychologist felt that, wow, this is a great science, that there is some things which are happening from the right hemisphere, some things which are happening from the left. For example, largely, I'm a right-handed person. If you are a right-handed person, 95% of our speech is located on the left side. When I want to see a visual stimuli coming from the left, my right-sided posterior part or back portion of the brain would be fired up or lighted up. Now, these were some of the observations which Dr. Sperry put forth. And that is where the preference or the brain's thinking preference was born. Now, when Dr. Herman came into picture, he started to hook up people with EEG, electroencephalogram in GE, General Motors. He started to also find something very similar. He says, if I am thinking only from the right hemisphere, largely, dominantly, because obviously the corpus callosum is intact, my impulses are flowing from one brain to other. But if I'm largely dominant in right, I would be a little more creative with an artistic flair, would be very comfortable talking to people, would have lots of ideas, would be very innovative, would be let going, would be a little forgiving. But at the same time, if I'm slightly towards the left, I am likely to be more linear in operations. I would like data. I would like to study it in details, would be a little analytical. So when all these features came out, and then a lot of again back and forth work went into this process. So there's something called the dominant brain science which was formed, which means you as Poonam or I as Shweta will have certain parts of the brain because of the repeat use becomes dominant, and my behavior, communication, the way I talk to people, the way I do my tasks gets derived from that. And then obviously came a lot of pop neuroscience. Oh, I'm left brain, and then oh, I'm right brain. We are wired actually together, but the dominant part leads our life. So if I am right dominant, I am likely to be more comfortable in communication, to likely to be more innovative, likely to test new different foods, love to experiment, love to innovate, love to cross the borders, not be restricted, have out of the box opinions, etc. So this is fundamental to also the tools that we use in the limitless brain framework, and the entire future ready now is also based on that. Now the beauty of this wiring, and that is what fascinates me, is around the age of 13, just when the child goes from 12 to 13, that consolidates, which means it's hardwired. So if my child has the preference which is more to the right, I am likely to have that child with all the behavioral nuances of the right brain for life, for good, unless it is consciously changed and I have whole brain skill developed. Now that is the ultimate goal. I don't want to drive the car with only rear mirror. I don't want to drive the car only with front mirror. I want the balance. I want all the four wheels, all the upper brain, lower brain, right brain, left brain of my car of life balanced in skills, not in preferences. So, and the beauty is, whatever is my preference, I should be utilizing it to the maximum. And how is it done? Very simple assessments, 20 to 30 minutes of assessment for the parent, and for the kid leads these kind of amazing discoveries.
That's amazing, doctor, what you explained. So, what I learned, yes, there is a natural inclination, that wiring part is there, and science is telling us that. But with our conscious efforts, also we can relearn, rewire, reinvent, right? So, but it's a good idea to know what is your natural inclination, as you explained. There are tests, there are quick things which parents as well as kids can take. But I wanted to ask you another question. We talked about world is changing. So what are the key skills today's children and teens they need to develop so that they are not lost in this fast-paced changing world?
Beautiful, beautiful question. See, hard skills, a lot of hard skills, such as accounting, will be done by the computers. AI is going to take a lot of writing work. Now, the moment that somebody is talking about a poem, there's a doubt which creeps in. Is the poem written by the person or Chat GPT has written, right? Now, this was not the case early on. Last week, I had a patient in my clinic who was 16-year-old, and she came to me very anxious and said, I'm very upset with my teacher. And I said, what happened? The teacher failed to believe that I wrote that entire essay. The teacher kept on saying that it is AI driven, and she got upset at that. She says, but I have written it. Every single word is mine. So this is the era which we are going to live in. So a lot of redundant tasks, monotonous tasks, tasks which needs a lot of calculations, etc., and all will be taken care. But what will not be taken care? Now, let's assume that if I am doing a data task, which generally would take me 6 hours, but with the help of the right tools, I collapse that into 1 hour. What am I going to do for those 5 hours? So with that 5 hours, I have to develop my soft skills. So my communication, my creativity, empathy, reaching out to people. I cannot be then, doom scrolling, because then those 5 hours, if I am spending in doom scrolling, and then I get into the brain rot. In fact, brain rot is a terminology which has just been introduced by the Oxford Dictionary, saying when you continuously keep on having all the doom scrolling and continuously consume the media, you start to have atrophy or shrinkage in the brain, and then have all the behavioral problems, addictions, and dementia or loss of memory or attention and focus deficit. So what am I doing for those 5 hours? So that is the question which we have to answer for the younger generation. So we have to be mindful that we not just have to work on their hard skills and the core. So I call it the hard skill as a core skill, and then small little satellite skills, which allows them portfolio careers, 3 or 4 careers where they feel happy about, earn good money, have a decent life, and make a mark for themselves in the world. But at the same time, build the soft side of it, where they have empathy, creativity, communication, passion, commitment, self discovery, inquiry of who am I, having a spiritual, psycho spiritual inclination, and then that becomes sort of a balanced and a wholesome individual, which we have much, much more capabilities and much more time flexibilities than what we had in the good old days.
Dr. Shweta, if I tell you what I know from software engineers, they think soft skills are hard, right? So, but for
Yes.
uh, I am there at my current company for almost 25 years. I'm celebrating my
Wow.
25th anniversary. But why am I there? Because not because of my IQ, but because of my EQ, right? Like
Beautiful.
the way you're explaining, those soft skills are so crucial to thrive in today's world where machines can do everything, but we are having less humanness at our
Absolutely.
workplace, right? Even in our
Absolutely.
society. So I think those soft skills, the value-based thinking you're sharing, that even you talked about little bit about spirituality. I think that's the way we need to move forward in this ever fast changing world. But at the same time, I wanted to ask you another questions. What are some practical ways parents can help their children become future ready?
So we have four pillar approach, so in the My Limitless Brain platform that we have currently as well, if you go to www.mylimitlessbrain.com, we have four pillars to this entire thing, because we don't, yes, it's good to know everything, but then what are the hardcore steps that you take towards it? So the four pillars are: first is discover your potentials, your children's potentials, and complete the family dynamics. Discover. Second is direct. Then start preparing the lists of what can the child be directed towards. The third is develop. Let's develop what is the strength, what we talked about, the flow, and also develop the grow. And the fourth, may most important, which is my favorite, is drive. We need to create a community. We need to create the inspirational cohorts where we learn from each other. So we are coming up with this labs, which includes intuition lab, mental fuel lab, lab for technology of tomorrow, and soft skills such as communication lab, because all this makes the human a human. And if we are in the process of this discovery, direction, developing, and driving right from the early age, unfortunately, because a lot of schools are not doing it, a lot of schools are doing it, and that is great, but a lot of schools are not doing it. So we as parents have to take up that initiative, and then start working from the age of 13 onwards, and start to get them into this process. And you spoke about EQ. I strongly feel that AQ, adversity quotient, creativity quotient, CQ, SQ, spiritual quotient, IQ, of course, intelligent quotient, and I also have another thing at IQ, intuitive quotient. In the good old ancient wisdom, people would not go to schools, would not be educated, not have a formal degree, but would know everything, even to the tune of what the cosmos and the universe entails. So that was happening from the intuitive quotient. So all this SQ, CQ, AQ, intuitive quotient has to be built by appropriate taking out the time, understanding the formulas, and then giving giving that environment, making sure that children go to such kind of camps, making sure that experiments happen at home. A very simple experiment we did, and that I'm just getting reminded of that. So we had this cohort coming over, and we said we have 50 of us, amazing young blood, youth and full of energy, 16-year-olds. All we asked them was to replicate Dr. Emoto's experiment. Now, you and me are aware about Emoto's experiment, right? He took a bottle of water and then spoke some kind words, said thank you, and then froze the water and looked at the microscopic element of the water. Now, what we told these kids is, go take your glasses, speak the thank you, speak the good words to one water, and then abuse the other water. Go ahead and put it in your fridge for 12 hours. Next day, when you come to the session, bring both those little tagged. Some of them had petri dishes, some of them had little the glass jars. You come back with your jars and look at the ice. Look at, even with the naked eyes, what is the physical structure of the ice. 80% of the people in that room where it was used abuse and the bad words were used, the ice was cracked, it was all shattered, it was not a nice looking ice, while it was a beautiful ice where the good words were spoken. A very simple and absolutely interesting experiment which drills down subconsciously a fact that, look, if I say good words, I am serving my body, because 70% of my body is water. And if I am speaking abuse, it is damaging the water of my body, which means it's damaging my health. Now, you don't have to tell them elaborate, big stuff and everything. See a movie with them, because subconsciously, a small little message in the movie is also impacting them. Go and take them out for park walks. Go and let them do some service. The humanity, this stands on service as well. Let them volunteer. Let them pick up those volunteering tasks which they like and love. Expose them to also the deficiencies what are there in the community. Like, because most children will feel privileged, they would even not know how it sounds or feels like to not have a mealless day. Go ahead and spend some time with that kind of approach as well, because let them serve in Salvation Armies, or wherever possible. This is how the impact on their subconscious gets created. Now, 10% of our brain is conscious, 10%. The 90% of it is subconscious. And subconscious takes in roughly 11 million bits per second. The conscious, as you and me are talking and somebody is listening, is only 50 bits per second. So, whatever the child is getting exposed to, and thanks to Instagram, all the people come and tell, I have childhood trauma, I have attention deficit. So my childhood trauma, yes, we all will have certain traumas, because all the subconscious is just, it's like a relay which is happening layer by layer into that subconscious. Are we spending enough time to work on those subconscious patterns? Are we giving enough opportunities for that subconscious to surface into the conscious as parents to our children? So that is all what has to be done. Sometimes play video game with your children as well. Through the video game, let video game become a medium of some good values. So it's always, you have to find out innovative ways by yourself. There was a study which was done, huge study, and I love this study because it was the longest study in the history of parenting. There was a study which is done in UK. 70 years people were followed up. After 70 years, what they found, that there were three fundamental factors which was good parenting standards, where the children grew up well, everything was fine, their values were amazing, they were great human beings, they did very well, they were successful, they were happy. What were those three things? Very interesting. The one was, obviously, when there's a lot of poverty in the early age, that becomes a deterrent factor, because you want means, you want to give them enough stuff around so that they build their brain in the early age. Second one was a bedtime routine. If the children were exposed to a very specific bedtime routine, the children and the parents talk to each other for 30 minutes in that bedtime, there was a change in their subconscious patterns which happened. What a simple and easy way. And the third most important thing was, what kind of environment are the parents giving? Is there smoking in the environment? Is there abuse? Is there toxic things which are spoken, etc.? Because again, that is also a way in which the subconscious processes are happening. So look at this study. The study very clearly gives us absolutely a beautiful this, that more than conscious, work on the subconscious of the children and the entire environment, which is giving you the 11 million bits per second. And there was another Harvard study which said that children who learn to do the chores, regular chores, helping the parents in shopping, helping the parents in cleaning utensils, etc., they did much better in their careers, and they were much more likely to be successful at a later date. And why would that be? This same subconscious.
Wow, Dr. Shweta, this has been such an empowering conversation. Your message brings both clarity and calm to what can feel like a chaotic moment for parents, but you are explaining us, go back to basics. Create that nurturing, caring environment, have that bedtime routine, right? Simple things like that can build confidence for our kids. So, parents, if you're feeling uncertain about your kids' future, you're not alone, but with the right tools and the right mindset, as Dr. Shweta is explaining, you can guide your child toward a future they're not just prepared but excited about. Check out Dr. Shweta's book, Future Ready Now, for even more insights into neuroscience based career and life design. And remember, being future ready does not mean predicting the future, it means being prepared to grow with it, as Dr. Shweta is telling us. So until next time, stay open, stay connected, and trust your child's unfolding journey one day at a time. With that, Dr. Shweta, thank you so much.
Beautiful. And I would just say, yes, investment on the child is good, but investing in the child is great. So thank you so much for having me here again. And thank you to all the people listening to this episode.
Thank you.
You are listening to Mindful, Beautiful, and Thriving, a podcast series by Tharaka Foundation. As part of our youth series, we will be releasing new episodes every Friday, so make sure to continue to check those out. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and thank you so much for listening.